picks up the phone in the state of Massachusetts will be, you called the right place. That's what I'm trying to do. I'd love to take your questions. Thanks for having me.
That was going to be, what do you see as the job of the lieutenant governor?
The job of the lieutenant governor is to do whatever the governor wants you to do. That's the basic job. There's certain things that you have to do that on the governor's council. You have to chair the governor's council once a week on Wednesdays, and the governor's council appoints judges, and the governor's council grants pardons or not. And so you have to oversee the governor's council. My understanding is that the lieutenant governor does not actually grant the pardons or appoint the judges, but they oversee the governor's council that does that. And also you work on behalf of the governor. If the governor wants you to work on recovery issues in the institutions in the state, you can do that. That's what I would be most passionate about. But if he wants you to work on, just as a liaison to the cities and towns, that's great as well. I would love to do that. A liaison to the legislature, working with the legislature, trying to get, legislation passed, the governor's priorities. You basically, as Barney Frank said, I asked him the same question. I said, what is the governor? Lieutenant Governor, he goes, you're an ambassador. You're an ambassador to the governor, whether it's in DC or the legislature or with the general public and the municipalities around the state. So it would be a fun job and one that I would passionately like to engage in. Yes, sir.
One thing, I'm a little bit fuzzy on how this works in terms of the process, but in this state, the lieutenant governor campaign is completely independent of the top of the ticket, the governor's race. So they're not
in the primary. What it is I'll give you the lay. This is the lay of the land. My job, first of all, I got to get 10,000 signatures. How many people here? 9,000. Okay, 9,000. By the way, see this going around? If you'd like to be a volunteer or possibly a delegate, please check volunteer and or delegate. If you want to send some money, pass it forward. But so I need 10,000 signatures at a minimum. You actually need 15 because just to be safe. That's the first thing.
What number are you at now?
I'm at 4.
1,000?
No, 4. Wait a second. 1, 2, 3, 4. We haven't started yet. You can't start till February.
All right.
When the Secretary of State releases the documents, they have to be official documents. So you need 10,000 signatures. So it means I'll need a lot of volunteers. You need then that gets you into the convention. So once you're in the convention, then you need 15% of the delegates. How many people here are considering being a delegate? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
It's a
11,
start.
12, 13, 14, 15. So I have 15 delegates. So I only have 685 to go. But you need 15% of the delegates in the convention. Then if you get that, then you're on the ballot for the primary, which is in September. And right now there are 2 candidates for lieutenant governor. If other people jump in, there could be more, but right now there are 2. So you have to get, let's just say there are 2, there's a 2-person race, and I'm not sure the day of the election of the primary. Does anybody know? Have they released that date yet? No. So it's around.
No, that was a big question with Galvin because it's bumping up against the Jewish holidays.
Right, okay.
So he hasn't set the date.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sometime in September, they have the primary, and the top vote getter in the Democratic primary for lieutenant governor joins with the top vote getter for the Democratic primary for governor, and those 2 are automatically a team. And then they go, and they only have 2 months, September, October, 2.5 months, and they go in the general election against most likely
Charlie
Baker
and Karen.
So
Yeah.
can I conclude that
Sure.
someone seeking the lieutenant governor nomination never endorses a candidate for governor?
Usually, I wouldn't say never.
I mean, you don't right
Yeah,
now.
I don't right
Preference
now.
in the top of the ticket.
Right. I don't right now, and it's automatic but you could theoretically run as a team. And that's what Karen and Charlie are doing. They're running as a team. They're not going to have primary
They didn't
opponents.
do that the first time, though.
No.
I don't think they did, no.
Not until after the primary.
But theoretically, one of the lieutenant governors, I believe, could run with the Democratic nominee for governor as a team. I think it's been done in the past. I don't think anybody has signed up to do that this year, but it's possible, in theory. Usually the Democrats don't do it, and usually the Republicans do, largely because they're outnumbered in the state, I think is one of the reasons they do it.
Very true.
Anything else?
Jimmy,
Yes, sir.
so the issue of mental health, like Judy, the issue of schizophrenia, it's a very complicated disease. And laws vary by state. And I know that Massachusetts has similar laws to other states in that when the person is severely afflicted, there is nothing that the families can do by law unless they are either a threat to themselves or a threat to someone else. So they end up either on the streets or in jail.
Mm-hmm.
How do you fix or influence those laws?
You know, it's, like you said, it's very complicated.
It is.
I think one thing I would do is defer to experts on it, because I'm not an expert on it. You can just look at the statistics, though, and see who is in the prisons,
Yeah.
who is on the streets, and the percentage of those people that are afflicted
Yeah.
with schizophrenia or mental illness or any of these other issues. One thing I think I would love to see implemented is in terms of people who have legitimate criminal behavior. You know, the warrants, the way a lot of the police right now respond to warrants is they wait for the person to commit another crime. And it's like, we gotta do better than that. If there's a warrant on somebody, why can't we go get them?
That's the thing.
You know what I mean? Why can't we go get them? And I think there's gotta be some room for improvement in that. And sometimes people will be nervous about, they'll say, my relative is acting crazy and he's doing this or that, or she's doing this or that. And they'll say, we can't do anything until they commit a crime. And I think there's room for improvement there. I'm not sure what it is, but there's gotta be room for improvement, because the crime can't be the only criteria by which we protect the person from themselves or somebody else. Thank you. Yes.
I would say, I'm Judy, I'm the one that asked the question about schizophrenia and talked about it. My nephew stopped taking his meds, so we couldn't find him. So I called the Weymouth police, because that's where he was living. Please go check on my nephew, he's schizophrenic, and we can't find him. Just go and see if he's there, or is he dead? You know, that's what you face when you're a family member. She said, why? Did he do something? This is the Weymouth police. Well, if you say schizophrenic, they should have training to know that, you know, schizophrenics usually try to commit suicide. They you know, there's a lot of crimes that they commit, so you don't worry about them when they're not on the medication. There has to be more training of the police departments, not only the cops, which they do get some training, but the people who are answering the phones.
I agree 100%. And Jay was mentioning this earlier, resources is a big issue. And the reality is, a lot of this stuff is gonna cost more money, not less money.
Yes.
You know, it's gonna cost more money.
But in the end, it'll be less money.
Yes,
Because,
yes.
They're not gonna be arresting. He got arrested, they tased him, they
Oh my God,
pepper sprayed him and everything.
exactly.
You know, he has a scratched cornea and everything, you know, all this, so now he has to go through health care and that, you know what I'm saying?
I know
In
exactly
the
what
end,
you're
it's
saying.
like all this money, when they should have, you know.
Right,
checked on.
and the whole thing is really more investment in the training you're talking about, in the resources. One thing, before I forget, somebody had asked about, Jay was talking about single payer. And this is an idea that's not fully developed, but it's an idea, and it's been floated around by some other people. But I thought it was maybe a great half step towards single payer, is allowing people, especially middle income people, high income people, to buy in to Mass Health. Let them buy in. If people are paying $5,000 to $15,000 for health insurance, families, self-employed people, right? Give them the public option to buy into Mass Health that their tax dollars are already supporting, right? Expand their benefits and lower their costs at the same time. They're now allowing, the senator would know this more than me, but they're now allowing some employers to buy into it, put their people, their employees on Mass Health, which is fine, but I'm not sure what the dollar figure is. Do you know what the dollar figure is?
Not exact dollar, but it is more than what the premium is for somebody whose income otherwise regularly on Mass Health. It's done through an employer.
Right.
It's at a higher rate, but substantially lower than what the private markets are.
Right, substantially lower. And I'm thinking, well, if you got thousands of people in the state, and I have to do the math, and we have to figure it out, but it seems to me, give the citizens of the state the same option that employers have. And I read $750 in the paper, and I don't know if that's a month, or is that a year, or I don't know what it was, but I was just surprised. But I just think that's a huge opportunity to broaden people's benefits, reduce the individual's cost, and here's the beautiful thing, build up Mass Health. If you have tens of thousands of people buying into it, and they're spending $5,000 a year or $10,000 into Mass Health, it would seem to me that if they're high-income people and they're gainfully employed, they're probably not that ill. It would probably build up the system. So it's an idea, it's not fully formed, I'm looking for expert advice. Is anybody here an expert?
But everybody has to pay into it. You can't give out a benefit that they're not paying for. And that seems to be a problem right now, and which leads to the lower payments, which go to the hospitals, and the EMTs are taking on the chin because they're taking care of people that are not paying into the system, into it. But I do like your idea as far as, pick up the phone and say, I'm here to help. And like the idea as far as listen to people. I work as an EMT. I work in Boston. I see everything. I also work with the Quincy Lions Club in the community groups in which I'm in the shelters, I'm in with the homeless, I'm in there. And the first thing you got to be able to do is get a hold of the person within 3 minutes. I tell all the medics and even the new med surgeons at BMC is that you got 3 minutes to connect with that person, regardless of what you wind up doing. You're not going to be able to help them. All the knowledge in the world isn't going to be able to help them. But to be able to take the approach of being able to help them along, the outcome is much, much better. But that's the approach that needs to be done. I like what you had to say, with that.
Thank you for your service.
Individual. So
on the front lines.
But a lot of times, with the addiction and, we need the beds, the government's broke. Let's face it, it's broke.
Yeah.
So what I do in the clubs is actually work with the business community to raise money to be able to go into the shelters to provide food for the homeless. But that's how it has to be approached. But the dollar figure,
Julie.
We're going broke as a state, but
I know.
there are agents, there are people on the outside that privately could actually do all that, but, maybe work with those types of service clubs to, raise money to help the poor and the drug addiction. And, it's one way of
Jay
doing
made
it.
an interesting point also about, I think he was talking about housing, and he was talking about how many different sectors there are for housing. And I
Build it.
assume there's probably
Build it.
something similar with
Build
healthcare.
it.
And I think we got to get on the same page.
Yeah.
It's to the extent that we can.
Yeah.
The same thing with national security. After it was 9/11, they realized we had 18 national security agencies. You got the CIA, the Secret Service, the NSA, and none of them talk to each other.
Right.
And that's just, we have to do better. We can do
Right.
better. Anything else?
Well, I can't thank you enough,
Is there any
Jimmy.
pizza left?
I didn't even get a slice tonight, Jimmy. There is some salad. Would you like some salad?
I only have fattening food. But thank you all so much. And I really appreciate you being here tonight, and it was a blast doing your breakfast a couple of years ago. And if you'd like any information on the campaign, it's jimmytingle4mass.com, and I would love any support, if you wanted to get on the email list, any support, any volunteers. We're gonna get 10,000 signatures, and like I said, I have 4 so far. And so we gotta get that number up.
Gotta work hard at that. Well, I can't thank you enough for taking the
My
time.
pleasure. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So if anybody wants to know, the Alabama results, it's only 3% in. Doug Jones is at 62%.
Can't cheer yet. Statistically, it is.
And then I woke up and Donald Trump.
So, no, after that, I never,
Thank you,
ever,
Senator.
ever cheered.
You get any news to spread before you go?
We
I'd like
watch
to
it
give you
anyway.
an
You
opportunity.
can watch, but never cheer.
What's up?
Oh, cheer, yeah, I'm just sharing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know. What's going on in the Senate these days, Senator?
Yeah, no, I
It's
saw.
really a
quiet,
place.
Can I ask a question?
I'm cheering, yeah, no,
Yeah,
I'm sharing.
don't say anything.
I texted Bruce.
What is the status of the legislation in regards to the compressor station on
Okay, for
Fall
you.
River?